here with Dean, the historian at the Whaley House, and we wanted to be here for some time, so thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Aside from being the Whaley's home, this building was also a general store, a commercial theater, and a county courthouse.
Yes.
So can you walk us through the historical timeline of the building?
Sure. The one-story wing was completed in 1856. It was originally constructed as a granary, and it was expected to be rat-proof because of its brick construction, but it wasn't. And in fact, the whole house had rat problems all through the 19th century. Then the following year, 1857, the two-story portion of the building was added onto it and completed in August that year. It was originally intended for the downstairs to be store space. There were three large bays that went all the way to the back. And upstairs up here is where the family lived. In fact, we're in what was the theater. This was actually originally the parlor and dining room for the family when they first moved in 1857. The family moved out in 1860, and came back in 1868. They were in San Francisco. Whaley had other people staying here and managing his business affairs. And that was when Mr. Whaley remodeled the downstairs and put in the parlors and the partitions and made it more of a family space downstairs. That was also 1868 when the Tanner Troupe Theater came to San Diego. They rented the entire upstairs for $20 in gold coin.
Wow.
And use of the corral to put on theatrical performances in this very space we're in. Unfortunately, Thomas Tanner, the leader of the troupe, died after a performance one night, a couple weeks into the run. The rest of the troupe stayed as long as they could, and they finally dissolved. And then some other theatrical groups were here for a few months after that, and then they cleared out. January of 1869, so right while the theater was still in here, was when Mr. Whaley opened the general store downstairs in partnership with Philip Crosthwaite, who had previously been a deputy sheriff here in San Diego. And that didn't last long. People didn't want to walk all the way down here from the plaza, which is about 2 blocks from here. That was, but with the dirt roads and the mud, there were stores down there. So Whaley and Crosthwaite moved their store down to the plaza into a wood frame building. Then later in 1869, the county leased the one-story wing. And again, this space we're in now for use as the courthouse and county record storage was up here. The courthouse was down in the one-story wing. And that was there through 1871, just a couple of years. And then they relocated to downtown San Diego. Mr. Whaley was never paid all the rent he was owed and spent the rest of his life trying to get that rent that was due him from the county, and never did. Never saw the money, but now the county actually owns the whole house, so it kind of worked itself out, I think.
It's no surprise that the Whaley House is known for being haunted. In fact, the Travel Channel's America's Most Haunted called it the most haunted home in America. Have you yourself had any personal experiences here with hauntings?
Yeah, I have a few times. Working here made a believer out of me. I was a little skeptical when I started, but we were opening the house first thing in the morning, and I noticed through the railing on the upper landing what looked like pant legs. And I just kind of cocked my head and looked up, and there was a man leaning over the railing staring straight down at me.
Wow.
And he was just all shades of gray. It was like an old black and white snapshot had materialized or something. There was no color to him. And he had on a wide-brimmed hat. He looked more like he was curious. Who are you? Why are you here? Rather than, eek, I'm a ghost, get out.
How far back do the claims of hauntings go?
People have called this a haunted house since the 19th century. Before the house was built, there was a gallows on this property, and we know of 3 men that were executed here. Thomas Whaley probably witnessed all of them.
And still bought the land.
But he was definitely here for Yankee Jim Robinson, who was a boat thief that was executed here. And I think Mr. Whaley probably jokingly told his kids about Yankee Jim Robinson, but a lot of other visitors to the house seemed to experience things, even when the family wasn't so much. Lillian Whaley wrote that her family wasn't very much bothered by the ghost until she was living here in the 1920s. She started to have experiences of her own.
So the Whaley family actually had experiences here too.
Yes, yes.
It's funny because you don't think about, I feel like, hauntings happening. You know, think of the Whaley family maybe haunting the location, but you don't think about them themselves being haunted when they lived here.
Yeah, they. A lot of people think Yankee Jim Robinson is still here. And Lillian Whaley kept a journal for about 70 years of her life, and she often said that she thought it was Yankee Jim Robinson's ghost here.
And so, but you feel comfortable with everything, you know, it's like they're just curious. And,
Yes, and anytime I see any of those shadow people or anything, I go toward them because my curiosity takes over, you know.
Right.
I've been alone in here and it seemed creepy and I get nervous and uneasy, but when I actually see something, it's like that goes away and just my curiosity takes over. It's like, I want to know what this is.
That's what I do too, chase one, let's see, you know. And so this building is currently under restorations by the Save Our Heritage organization.
Yes.
What parts have been restored and what's currently on your docket to be restored?
The theater up here was one of the first buildings restored. Save Our Heritage organization assumed operations of the Whaley House stewardship in 2000. Most of the downstairs, the courtroom's been painted, the general store, both parlor and the study have been completely restored. Our next project, and we're actually working on it right now, is the downstairs guest bedroom. We are looking at wallpaper samples, and we just got a carpet sample last week that we rolled out on the floor in there and we're discussing.
And is there a way for people to donate to the restoration process?
Yes, they can. You can donate through our website, whaleyhouse.org. There's on the menu it says support, and it'll take you to the donation.
Well, everyone should come out and support the Whaley House. It's an amazing place, and I really hope everyone supports history. Go to more historical locations. Thank you so much for having us, Dean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.